Tanu sir, with your
Yes,
permission, sir,
yes.
can we start, sir? Because many
Yeah,
people
we
have
can
joined. Let's
start.
not
We need
keep
to
you
maintain
waiting.
time.
Yes, sir. Sanjeev sir, can we start, sir?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So, good evening, formally, good evening to everyone, all the seniors who have joined. On behalf of Management Training Institute, sir, I warmly welcome you all for the 31st edition of Antardrishti. We all know it is a leadership dialogue series, Antardrishti, which is designed to bring our senior leaders together with the different and distinguished practitioners from different facets, primarily to share the experience based on their perspectives over the leadership and institution building. Over the course of this Antardrishti series, this has evolved into a platform where our senior leadership engage with the various accomplished leaders from the industry, from the public institutions, to reflect on the issues that shape their long-term success of the organizations where they have been associated. But what connects all this conversation is one central idea that enduring institutions are built not only with vision, but also with governance, discipline, and consistent execution. And today's theme is very related to that only. The theme is governance, discipline, and execution, leading the large manufacturing enterprises, primarily to address a question that is relevant to organization like us also, which is very complex and which is a very capital intensive also. And especially at this phase where a lot of capital is being injected for the expansion. To formally welcome and set context for the today's interaction, I invite Shri Atanu Mukherjee sir, GM in charge academics, to deliver the welcome address, sir. Atanu sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh, and very good evening to all of you. First of all, I'd like to welcome all the executive directors and the CGMs, Chief General Manager of Steel Authority of India Limited, who are connected in online today in the Antardrishti session. And as sir, you are aware that this particular platform we have created to provide the leadership insight, so that the senior leader can reflect on the different leadership insight, and they can implement some of the principles and the fundamentals of the great leadership in their day-to-day life. So that is the basic objective of Antardrishti Forum. But today we are having a very known face with us as a expert who will be delivering his speech on the governance, discipline, and execution, which is the theme for today's Antardrishti, leading large manufacturing enterprises. So I also like to welcome Mr. G.S. Singhal Saab in this Antardrishti session, and most of the experienced people who are associated in SAIL, they must be remembering him because he was having a lot of contribution in SAIL also. Just in short, I will just I like to refresh your memories. That Singhal Saab is a former CMD and CEO and the Director of Finance with extensive leadership experience across major manufacturing and the defense CPSCs, including Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Limited, Misra Dhatu Nigam Limited, and of course the Steel Authority of India Limited. Sir, I will request that you please share your insight on the governance framework and how effectively we can maintain the capital discipline in large capex environment, and also how effectively we can build the execution driven culture. And he is also expertised in steering the major stakeholders environment in the different capacity. So I'm sure with his rich experience, we all will get benefited, and we'll take maximum learning from his sharing. With this, once again, I welcome all on Antardrishti session. Thank you. Over to Rajesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You have already introduced our speaker, but let me also give a more thorough introduction because the level of stature of the speaker we have today. It is my privilege to introduce our speaker for today's session, Sri Sanjeev Singhal, sir. Sir has already mentioned he is a distinguished PhD leader, more than 3 or 4 decades, around 4 decades of experience in India's most critical manufacturing and defense enterprises. Sir has also mentioned that his professional journey has compassed into major 3 sectors. Steel, he has spent a good amount of time with us in Steel Authority of India Limited, in Rourkela also, primarily in Rourkela, but also in sector like strategic minerals, where he was heading as Director Finance in Mishra Dhatu Nigam Limited. And the last leg of his career and most important phase in the defense shipbuilding, where he served as a Director Finance and later as a CMD at Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Limited. Over his tenure at the Mazagon Dock, sir has led the organization through a period of remarkable transformation, including the company elevation in 2024 to the Navratna status, and also very importantly, significant improvements in the financial as well as the operational performance parameters. Under his leadership, the organization managed the construction of multiple submarines, frontline warships, simultaneously while delivering the strong financial results and also enhancing the shareholders' value. He also played a key role in the successful IPO journey, which we are also discussing, of Midhani and Mazagon Dock, and he also demonstrating how strong financial governance and transparency can translate into long-term value creation. Over the course of his career, Sir has consistently emphasized transparency, process discipline, and robust financial governance. His contribution has been widely recognized, including the Bharat PSU Icon Award at the Business Today India Best CEO Awards. Sir, without further much ado, sir, I welcome you for today's session and hand over the stage to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Rajesh, and thank you, Mr. Atanu, for the nice introduction. In fact, as far as this coming back to SAIL is concerned, this is something which is very close to my heart. And I can say that whatever I have been able to achieve professionally, a large part of it I definitely owe to Steel Authority of India Limited. My formative years have been with the Steel Authority, and the systems and procedures at Steel Authority, whatever I have learned and subsequently implemented. So SAIL has a very big role in shaping up me as a professional. So looking forward to interact with you all, and I believe that I will be able to contribute something meaningful as far as today's interaction is concerned. I've been told that the today's topic is with regard to the governance. So I take it as corporate governance for, yes, large manufacturing organization, but at the same time, the fundamental blocks with regard to corporate governance, they essentially remain same irrespective of the size of the company. When we are talking of commercial companies, the fundamental blocks would remain same. As far as the corporate governance is concerned, it might sound to be a very dry subject involving binders of bylaws, procedures, rules, regulations, which are neatly bound and kept in the corporate office or maybe with the company secretary. But in real life, when we are in the field, then it is actually an arena where human egos, high financial stakes, and a lot of power plays, they play out. So we need to look at the subject slightly deeply. I'll be reaching out to you by way of a small presentation where we'll be discussing, and I believe there will be a slot for the question answers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. There, so we can look at those. Yeah, are the slides visible?
Yes, it is visible. Can I request to make it full screen, sir? If we can.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
So before we actually come to the subject, just a minute. Yeah, before we actually come to the subject of corporate governance, let me just discuss about some of the underlying fundamental blocks before we visit corporate governance, if we talk in terms of underlying pillars, then there will be laws, regulations, standards, and ethics. I believe that as far as the August House is concerned, by and large, these issues would be known and clear. As far as the laws are concerned, these are broad principles and rules enacted by the legislature, and they address the what part, why this is required. And they are more stable and difficult to change. We'll look at it why they are more stable and difficult to change. And whereas as far as the rules or regulations are concerned, these are the specific set of rules. These are more procedural, which are issued by the government agencies, and they deal with the how part of the law. They can be updated more frequently to address specific situations, etc. Normally, the laws are enacted by the legislative bodies like the parliament or state legislature. They are much broader in scope, establishing fundamental principles. Like if we take an example of an easy example, which is easy to understand and correlate, the environmental protection standards. So a law may mandate that the environment is to be protected, or these standards need to be maintained. But as far as the regulations are concerned, these are issued by the administrative agency. Like Income Tax Act would be passed by the parliament, whereas the finance ministry may be issuing the rules governing the income tax regulation. In case of environment, the parliament may be passing the Environment Act, but the rules and regulations would be issued by the Environment Ministry. So these are regulations are more specific, which provide detailed instructions that how an agency is required to comply with the law. And depending upon the time frame, it may provide certain like emissions, vehicle emissions, BS4 standards, by what time it is to be met. And there may be a graded requirement also, that these requirements would become more relaxed or more stringent over a period of time. So these are regulated through rules or regulations. In a nutshell, we can say that laws create a overarching framework, whereas the regulations provide the details and specific guidelines that how this framework would actually be applied or enforced. And similarly, when we come to standards and ethics, then at times the standards may be based out of law or regulation, but normally standards are voluntary guidelines and developed by the industry. Like one of the examples which immediately come to my mind is the adoption of USB-C port across all mobile phones. Like Android phones were using a different kind of a port, iPhone was using a different kind of a port. Although there was some initiation made by the European Union that all the phones would be having a USB-C charging port. But basically, it is the industry association which decided on the uniformity. So these are industry developed or professional organizations, professional bodies. They prescribe certain standards to promote best practices and a consistency across platforms. So we can see that developed by the industry organizations, professional bodies, and normally it is voluntary, based on technical specification of best practices or performance criteria for products. Some of the examples can be ISO standards for quality management, cybersecurity standards, safety standards for specific products. And when we come to the last one of this, which is ethics. So basically, everyone understands what is ethics, moral principle and values guiding the societal behavior. What is fair, what is right, what is wrong, what is equitable. Primarily to promote fairness, honesty, integrity in whatever interactions we have with each other. And one of the primary difference between laws and regulation and standards and ethics can be standards and ethics are primarily internally driven. They come from within whatever is the value system or whatever is the uniformity or whatever standard or benchmark the industry wants to create. So these are coming from within, internally driven, whereas laws and regulations are enforced from outside. So this primarily differentiates both. some of the examples which are there on the screen, it's some whether this is legal, illegal, anything which is not as per law is illegal, and ethical or unethical, which not necessarily that it is permitted by law or not permitted. So something which is legal can be unethical. Something which is ethical can be illegal at times. Like insider trading. Insider trading is definitely governed by the law. So it is unethical. It is illegal both. But when we look at paying just the minimum wages, so government prescribes what are the minimum wages to be paid. Now somebody engages the workmen with those bare minimum wages, so which of course, as far as the legal is concerned, it is nothing illegal about it. But at the same time, maybe the times have changed, and a decent standard of living is not possible to be maintained with just minimum wages. So progressive organizations, what they do, they provide meaningfully more than the minimum wages. So probably that is considered as an ethical behavior. Lying to a friend, nothing illegal about it. No law refrains you from making a lie to your friend, but considered to be an unethical behavior. So there can be a number of examples on this. Laws and regulations, they often reflect, are many a times based on the ethical principles, but the primary differentiator would be that laws and regulations, they basically set a baseline for what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So on an average, or this minimum requirement should be met. Whereas when we talk of ethics, when we talk of standards, they require the individuals and the organizations to go way beyond what is mandated by the law. If certain standards are required by law, the ethical behavior would be significantly a better performance than what is legally mandated. Sometimes legal requirements may conflict with the ethical principles. Like if you take an example, the scenario of capital punishment. Now, capital punishment may be a legal requirement, or it may be mandated by law that in case this crime is established, then a capital punishment is warranted. But in many sections of the society, this may not be considered ethical. So there could be areas of conflict also. Standards are generally used to bridge wherever these gaps are existing. They normally help in translating the ethical principles into acceptable practices and guidelines. Now, we have looked at law, legal requirements. We have looked at ethics. Now, when coming to the commercial organizations, there is a third pillar also, that is profits. The center point for which a commercial organization exists. So now, instead of two broad pillars, that is law and ethics, law, regulation, and ethics and standards, we are dealing with three pillars: law, ethics, as well as profits. And when we come to corporate governance, then corporate governance is basically a relation between these three: law, ethics, and profits. Now, the situation would be pretty simple if there is a decision to be made which is legal, which is ethical, and which also results into profits for the company. I think that is the most convenient or most easy scenario which pans out. I am abiding by the laws, it is ethical, and at the same time it earns profits for the company. Governance issues arise when there are inflection points. That is the point in time or the situation where the board or an executive has to make a choice between these. Something, if I'm abiding by the laws, probably it is not ethical, or maybe it is not resulting into profits. It's not a commercially viable decision, or otherwise. So when the issue comes with respect to taking a decision where there is a conflict between the legal position, between the ethical posture, and between the commercial viability, and a decision is to be made, there the corporate governance comes into play. I would be, in fact, well, there is a lot many literature with regard to what are the various models of corporate governance, what are the legal position, what are the rules and regulations prescribed by the Companies Act, prescribed by the secretarial practices, prescribed by law. But instead of looking at those theoretical issues, I would be focusing more on certain situations and case studies probably. For a better understanding of what corporate governance actually means, for one thing I would like to highlight is, as far as the corporate governance is concerned, there would not be the right answer in a given situation. Nobody can say with certainty that this is the only right path. So there would be options, there would be decisions based on the collective wisdom of the board, collective wisdom of the group, or on the wisdom of a single executive, whosoever is taking a decision. There can be multiple correct answers. There can be many wrong answers. So we would not be giving any kind of a, yes, this is in such a situation, this is the only right course of action. So some of the red flags which are immediately visible in case of whether this is a good governance or a bad governance in case of a company board, like concentration of power or multiple hat or dual hat syndrome, which we say. As an example, we can have a company which is a startup or a going for an IPO, and we find that the founder of the company as well as the CEO, they are the same person. The same person is the founder. The same person has designated himself as the CEO, and the same person is the chairman of the board. And maybe a friend of his, particularly this is more prevalent with the startups, a friend of the chairman is also a CFO. Now, in such a scenario, when there are angel investors or early stage investors, then for them it becomes a difficult issue to any proposal which comes to the board, whether any kind of a bias is there or vested interests are there or not there, it becomes very difficult to evaluate. So this is a governance issue, that the independent oversight is missing. The founder has a different set of interests. As a chairman, he has a different set of interests. As a CEO, he has a different set of interests. But all these interests are concentrated with one single person. Then CFO also is a close ally or friend of the CEO. Then it becomes very difficult whether the decisions being taken or being proposed, they are without any kind of bias. They have been evaluated in a professional manner. A suggested solution could be that we go for separation of powers. There are different. The best course would be, yes, the chairman is a different person, and most preferably the chairman is an independent person, an independent director who has nothing to do with the business concern. So the founder is there, CEO is there. Okay, they are the same person, but we have a chairman who is an independent professional who has nothing to do with the business per se. This would be the best case scenario. However, they are difficult to implement in case of small businesses, in case of startups, etc. So at least what can be done is that we can appoint an independent lead director. Yes, there is an independent director whom we designate as a lead director. And the lead director is empowered enough that he can call a board meeting without the involvement of CEO. Without the involvement of the chairman also, if required, he can call a board meeting. So a reasonable number of independent directors are there on the board, including the representatives of the early stage investors. And one of the independent directors is named as a lead director, although he may not be named as a chairman. So this is a compromise situation, but at the same time, a workable situation. So this is one of the suggestions which can be practical and implementable. Then there could be situations where there is a conflict of interest or absence of non-retaliatory policies in the board, like in case of a whistleblower. A whistleblower is somebody who raises a red flag or makes a complaint against the management or against the policies of the company, or anything which is anything wrong which is happening in the company, and the management has not taken cognizance of that. So suppose there is an example where interesting example where a whistleblower raises an issue with respect to a senior management personnel who is looking after the marketing aspects of the company, that he has taken a bribe or he has done something which is not in the best interest of the company. As far as the management is concerned, the senior management sees that this senior executive, we call it vice president, this vice president is very important for the company. He has brought a significant amount of sales, and the way he works, rubbing him adversely would not be in the best interest of the company. The company's performance can suffer, company's sales can suffer. So we cannot let this person go. So now here the interests are conflicting. Yes, as far as the policy of the company is concerned, we need to take a stand. But as far as the performance of the individual is concerned, taking a stand against him is not in the best interest of the company. So maybe there are retaliatory policies are not there. So management tries, or the senior management tries to avoid looking at this, but this would not be the best course of action if we look at it from the governance framework. Then definitely, as far as the even if the CEO wants to handle the entire situation internally and wants to let away the individual concerned with a stern warning. As far as the corporate governance is concerned, corporate governance would look at it. The matter should be referred to the audit committee. As far as the organization policies are concerned, the best policies are concerned, as far as the requirement of SEBI are concerned, the matter needs to be referred to the audit committee comprising of audit committee is chaired by an independent director. So the matter should be referred to audit committee bypassing the CEO. So CEO is not to be involved, and the audit committee should directly handle the matter. Should investigate the issues involved. In case required, engage an outside legal firm. Engaging an outside legal firm is important, that we should not go to our normal regular counsel, because that would reflect that maybe don't look at the issue in a hard manner. So that kind of bias needs to be removed. We need to have a independent law firm, and foremost and most important, that the whistleblower has to be protected at all cost. So in case it is felt that the organization or the senior management is taking any kind of a harsh, unjustified action against the whistleblower, so the whistleblower has to be protected, because ultimately that is in the best interest of the company. The whistleblower has acted as the eye and ears of the company for the board. Otherwise, what is happening inside the company many a times, because board is not involved in the day-to-day operations of the company, so the board members would not be aware exactly what all is going on in the company. So the eyes and ears, whistleblower being the eyes and ears of the company, his interests need to be protected. Then there can be one more example, can be with respect to a zombie board or sleeping board.
Probably, can I request that? I cannot see your camera switched on, sir. So,
Hello.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, sir, but camera sir शायद आपका वीडियो नहीं आ रहा है sir at my end.
Actually, I have a slight issue with respect to the bandwidth.
Okay, fine, sir, fine. Okay, sir.
Yeah. So then we have a zombie board or overboarding or only technically called independent director. This can be like one beautiful example is there where a company requires some liquidity crisis is there, and they need to obtain a credit line from the bank, and for which an urgent meeting of the board is required. And we find that when an urgent meeting of the board is called, none of the directors, the independent directors, nobody is available because they are preoccupied with other requirements. They are also on the board of other companies. And the timelines do not permit them to be present or be available. Although in today's scenario, this kind of situation can always be handled through online meetings. But just as an example, in case there is a healthy board comprising of independent directors also, but if the directors are not available, then this is overboarding. A same person is working as a director in multiple companies, although legally the Companies Act allows a person to be director in multiple companies, but a company has to take a hard look on this, whether it is desirable for them or not, or whether the scale of operations of the company requires a presence at a short notice of the director, and will it be possible for the director concerned to be available or not. So maybe the company's policies can prescribe that anybody who is an independent director on the board of our company, he will not be accepting the directorship of any other company. Now, this would also be required to avoid any kind of a conflict of interest or any kind of sharing of information. So here the director is there, but technically he is not independently available for the board to take decisions. Then there can be required. Then there can be the company can also prescribe that in case the director is not able to attend more than 25% of the meetings, then probably his continuation is doubtful. So just to ensure that the director concerned are actually attending the meetings. So these are some of the ways and means by which we can ensure that the directors are actually available for discussion, for advice, and there can be a system or process within the board itself for evaluation of each director. What is the performance evaluation? As far as the CPSCs are concerned, as far as the functional directors are concerned, who are appointed by the Government of India, by PASB, their evaluation does take place on an annual basis against the MOU parameters. What has been the MOU parameters, significant weightage to MOU, and then individual performance. As far as the independent directors are concerned, independent directors this is to a large extent this is lacking, an individual assessment or evaluation of the performance of the directors. This is missing. So this is something which can be implemented to ensure that we are following good governance practices. I'll also like to discuss some of the scenarios for a greater understanding of the governance mechanism. Like a case is there where a whistleblower alleges a irregular procurement of 200 crores involving senior management. Now, the question which the boardroom or the board directors can raise is who should investigate, and should the accused executive be suspended or not? One of the suggested routes can be that we refer the matter to CBO, which is an independent appointee. And audit committee may also appoint independent forensic auditor in case the scale of the fraud or issue at hand is such that independent forensic auditor appointment is justified. And we take an administrative action with respect to suspension, etc., only after some preliminary findings are on board. And of course, what I've already discussed, that whistleblower protection in any case is essential, so that the system or the process whereby the whistleblower, we have a mechanism for that. PDP mechanism is there, where CVC provides full protection to the whistleblower. Even the name is not disclosed even to the management who has given the complaint. So this kind of a strong whistleblower protection policy has to be there within the organization also. Another scenario is there where finance proposes writing off 300 crores of old receivables from a government customer pending for over 10 years. The simple statement is yes, this has been pending for 10 years and we have been making efforts, but this is not likely to come. So we already have a provision against this, so better to write it off. Now, having a provision against a receivable is a different matter. Although it may not impact my profitability for future years, but at the same time, the amount continues in my balance sheet. So this amount is there, which stands and which remains questionable. Once I write it off, then it is removed from the balance sheet. So there is nothing which can be questioned tomorrow or which can be looked into or examined. So as far as the board is concerned, board has to take a decision with regard to writing off of this 300 crores of receivables. Should the board approve the write-off, and is any government approval required? So at least board needs to examine. One of the suggested approach can be that board has to ensure that the whatever efforts were required to recover this amount at whatever level, at the senior most level, the best efforts have been made, and all those recovery efforts have failed to yield any result. And this is a fully established conclusion that this amount is not recoverable. Maybe for reasons the documents are not there, or maybe for a reason that at some point of time some kind of overbilling was there, or the services were there is a doubt, serious doubt with regard to the services being provided. So all the recovery efforts have been fully exhausted. If required, we can also obtain a legal opinion whether is there a genuine case of going into litigation for recovery of these receivables. And of course, then we have to see the delegation of financial powers, as many a times based on the category of the CPSC. A formal government approval may be required to write it off. But the most important feature, the most important aspect which needs to be looked into, that the management is not trying to write off this 300 crores on account to hide any operational failure. It is not that something, in case there has been an overbilling, this is also an operational failure. In case all avenues for recovery of this 300 crores have not been tried, this is also an operational failure. So this needs to be established. Yes, there was a genuine demand or there was a genuine mistake. But at the same time, this is not recoverable. So operational failure should not be hushed up or pushed under the carpet in the name of write-off. Another scenario is there, which I find pretty interesting, that the administrative ministry to which the CPSC is reporting, they direct that we continue to service a government contract, which actually is not commercially viable, but strategically it is required for the country. The contract rates do not cover the costs. There can be a number of examples, including the production of availability of fertilizer. Now, strategically, it is important. Yes, the fertilizer should be available at a reasonable cost to the end user. Maybe the production of the fertilizer does not cover the costs. Now, the questions for the board members is, should the board comply with the ministry directions? Now, this is something which is a catch-22 kind of situation, where as far as the ministry is concerned, which are the true owners of the company, they want, yes, you continue to service and comply with the directions of the ministry. And board, which has a fiduciary duty towards the company also, that a commercially viable decisions only should be taken, is at a loss to understand whether we should comply or not comply, and how these losses should be treated. So, one of the suggested positions with regard to board, the directors are bound to act in the best interest of the company. So, as far as director is concerned, they have a fiduciary responsibility that whatever decisions they take for a commercial company, it should be a commercially viable decisions. However, in such a scenario where the owners or the administrative ministry is giving a direction, then effort should be made to obtain a written directive from the government or from the administrative ministry. Yes, this order needs to be serviced at this rate. And the board should also try to seek a budgetary support for subsidy. Yes, this is the cost differential. They should make out a case that this is a cost differential, and this is the minimum margins required for the company to run in a smooth manner, or to meet the targets which are otherwise assigned to the company. So this must be borne by the government in case the government wants that this order should be serviced, and should record that this is a strategic or sovereign mandate. So this kind of a balancing between the commercial responsibility and the sovereign objectives, this needs to be ensured by the board. This is a real life interesting case, cross CPU disinvestment, where the issue is with respect to the governance and what actually is being projected in the market. Every year there is a mandate from the government of India with regard to the disinvestment targets. There is a administrative ministry, DIPAM, Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, which deals with the disinvestment of the CPSCs. Here the entities involved are ONGC, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation, Power Finance Corporation, Rural Electrification Corporation. And the mandate is that there has to be divestment of HPCL and REC, Rural Electrification Corporation. So all targets are given which the corporates are not in a position to meet, and the administrative ministries involved, they also want, or the government also wants, that we should declare that the targets have been met fully. So part of the disinvestment targets are achieved through sale of HPCL and REC to another CPSC, ONGC and Power Finance Corporation. REC shares are sold to Power Finance Corporation. HPCL are sold to ONGC. So the disinvestment target on paper or technically it is shown that we have been able to disinvest. Although the ownership continues to remain with the government of India largely. So this was an audit observation by CAG that the transactions did not actually reduce the government ownership. The government ownership has practically remained at a similar level. Although I would say that when HPCL shares were bought by ONGC, then ONGC was not fully owned by the government, so part of the shares were with the public also. So to a certain extent, the dilution was there, but at the same time, this is more for optics. And the intent of the government or intent of the DIPAM was not actually rolled out, actually implemented. So the governance issues definitely are economic rational and independent. Fiscal targets are not met, and minority shareholders' concerns are also not met, because there are shareholders probably who would not have been in favor of acquiring HPCL. In case of ONGC, there can be public shareholders who are not in favor of acquiring HPCL, but because government is the major shareholder, so that decision is thrust upon minor shareholders. And similar is the case of Power Finance Corporation. But many a times, in such a scenario, the board's hands are also tied. Like I said, they can only the board of directors can only record the circumstances of the mandate, whatever is the written mandate. Yes, this has been a written directive from the owners of the company, so it needs to be done. I would also discuss just governance has been there since time immemorial. Probably since the time the civilization has been there, the governance issues have also been there. So there are governance scenarios I am taking from the Indian mythology. There can be, to my mind, there can be this. I had come across a good example, probably from Mr. Birla, Aditya Birla. So he said, if we look at the four different scenarios, four different eras and four different scenarios, these are not actually four different eras, but yes, four different scenarios. We see Lord Ram, Maryada Purushottam, the epitome of governance. In no action would be questionable. Whatever are the ethics, whether you look at law, whether you look at ethics, absolutely pure decisions, never putting himself first. So then there is a different era where we see Sri Krishna. Now here the philosophy was slightly different. When we look at governance, his philosophy is slightly different. He looks at the larger goal. What is the goal to be achieved? And that goal is for the benefit of the society, for the benefit of the people. Now, to achieve that larger goal, there can be minor tweaks as far as the process is concerned. So he was willing to tweak the process. The process, each and every process may not be fully, may not measure up to legality and ethics. But as far as the overall arcing goal is concerned, yes, that is pious goal, and that is the scenario which everybody would approve of. Then there is a scenario with the fight between Duryodhana and Bhim. So here I would focus on Bhim. We look at it, there would be this, in this particular scenario, Bhim, I look at the Duryodhan. So as far as Bhim is concerned, Bhim hits at the lower, below the belt of Duryodhan. So Duryodhan, as far as Duryodhan is concerned, he did not retaliate by hitting in the same manner. So here the process of Duryodhan was right. The end goal was not correct. So his end goal was to win. So he could not achieve the end goal. He was more focused on the process. So many a times in the organizations also this happens, that we celebrate and we are able to achieve the milestones, but the ultimate victory is not in sight. So whatever is the final goal, so we achieve the milestones, but the final goal is not achieved. And then there is a scenario again from Ramayana, the case of Ravan. So here neither the process nor the goal, nothing is right. So this was one beautiful slide which I came across. Yes, starting from the first one where the process is right, where the goals are right, then to the second one where the goal is the right one. Maybe there are at occasions some flaws in the process. Third one where the process is perfect, but the end goal is not achieved. And the fourth where neither the process nor the end goal, nothing is acceptable. I'll share with one decision matrix for the board, or this can be utilized by any executive whenever the situation is there with regard to the conflict between the legal aspect, between the ethics and the profits. Then maybe this decision matrix can be put to use to arrive at a informed decision. If we consider four quadrants, then and on the left hand side we have high strategic importance, low strategic importance of the decision, and on the top or bottom we have high commercial viability and low commercial viability. Commercially it's a beneficial decision, or commercially it's not a beneficial decision. In the first quadrant, it is a pure commercial decision. Low strategic importance. It doesn't have any strategic importance, but it has a commercial viability. In normal course, this is as far as the board is concerned, even if it doesn't have a strategic importance, being a commercial organization, it's a pure commercial decision, has a high commercial viability. We should be going for this kind of a decision. Yes, we go for this kind of a project which gives me good commercials. The other side can be low commercial viability and high strategic importance. So this is what we discussed in one of the slides, that as far as the commercial viability is concerned, maybe it doesn't cover the costs. But as far as the strategic importance is concerned, it is highly strategically important. Like I work for Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders. There maybe a submarine, construction of a submarine is high strategic importance, very much required for the country. As far as the commercial viability is concerned, maybe the price which the government is willing to pay or the budgets which have been provided, they do not provide a commercial viability for the organization. So in such a scenario, what needs to be done? So probably what we discussed, yes, the government needs to support with respect to certain minimum margins. The decision of the government, if it is being thrust upon, which is against the commercial prudence, and still it is being thrust upon, it should be obtained from the government in writing. Yes, this needs to be done even at the cost of the company. And based on that, a decision has to be taken. Maybe there is no way out, but yes, the board takes an informed decision. Even if I am incurring losses in this particular project, being a strategically important decision for the country, for the welfare of the country, the company needs to execute this. Then there would be there could be certain project which is high on strategic importance as well as high on commercial viability. I think this is the easiest possible decision which a board can ever have. It is win-win situation in all respects. Yes, there is a strategic requirement, a destroyer is required or a aircraft is required, and the payout is also good for the employees, also for the company, also for the stakeholders, also. So this is the easiest decision, and just opposite to that, a project which doesn't have a strategic importance and which is also low on commercial viability. Neither it gives the profit to the company, nor there is any kind of a pressure from the administrative ministry or government with regard to the strategic importance. So this is definitely a governance risk zone. This should immediately raise a red flag. Yes, some vested interests definitely are involved. Otherwise, this kind of a thing would not be forced on the board. Now, whatever decisions are being taken in a company, each and every decision has a cost. Many times when we talk about cost, we are focused on financial costs. However, each and every decision may not have a cost in terms of finance only. There can be cost in terms of lost opportunity. There can be cost in terms of damaged trust. There can be cost in terms of internal conflict. There can be cost in terms of deferring growth or maybe certain consequences which are irreversible or cause a irreversible damage to the company. So, and even an indecision, whenever a proposal comes to us, on many occasions, people have a tendency to not to take a decision. They just keep that file aside, keep that proposal aside, and it keeps on lying there. But indecision is also a decision. If I am deciding not to take a decision, even that is a decision, and that also carries cost. Although people may feel they may drive some kind of a comfort by postponing taking a decision, but there are costs involved. So basically, the challenge in decision making is not how to avoid the cost or how to eliminate the cost, but it is accepting the cost consciously. Yes, whatever consequences are there, we accept it. If I again go back to mythology, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where Arjun is standing confused and whether to fight or not to fight. So it is said that basically his confusion or hesitation is not out of weakness. He is one of the best warriors the history has produced. It is basically a moral confusion that if I fight, then I am risking grief and destruction. Lot many lives are going to be destroyed, and lot many families would be grieving. And if I withdraw from this scenario, then maybe immediately the peace would prevail. But then I am abandoning my duty. Whatever duty has been bestowed upon me, I am not accepting that responsibility. So the entire confusion is primarily on account of which is a greater regret, which regret I can live with, whether by fighting and losing my own relatives, or by not fighting and avoiding my responsibility, my dharma. So basically, his philosopher and guide, that is Sri Krishna, what he does, he advises, he does not promise Arjun that you will be free of consequences. Whatever action you take or whatever inaction, the consequences would be there. So you would not be free of consequences. However, he provides a clarity with regard to the alignment with what decision you should align with. He very categorically says that yes, refusing to act, even if you refuse to act, you are not getting away from the responsibility. The responsibility will still be on you if you are not taking an action. So you are only choosing a different consequence. So inaction also has a responsibility. We sometimes confuse ki, yes, action as a responsibility, but if I do not take an action, I am not responsible. But that is not the scenario. Even inaction has a responsibility, although it has a different consequence. So whether the regret of avoiding one's dharma or the rightful action which needs to be taken, whether the responsibility to avoiding that, it can weigh heavier than the regret of painful action undertaken with full integrity. An action which is, although may not be close to my heart, but that is the right action. It may be painful, but if I have taken in the best interests of the company, in the best interest of the stakeholders, in the best interest of the employees, so even if it is painful, that probably is the right action. So with that conviction only, we need to proceed ahead. As a governance, before I close, I would say that we, as a leader, one has to lead with conviction and not convenience. If I sum it up, yes, there would be areas where it may not be very convenient to take a decision, but until you have the conviction to take the right decision, you will not be able to take the decision which actually is correct. Conviction is more than confidence or certainty. Basically, conviction represents the unwavering commitment to values, principles, purpose, even when the situation is not favorable to you, even in the face of adversity. So, confidence can be sometimes shallow or situational, but as far as the conviction is concerned, conviction is much more deep rooted. And a leader, I would not say that conviction means rigidity. A leader would not change his mind, but a leader can always change his mind. But it would be out of an internal reflection or opportunity of growth, not out of pressure or not out of convenience. So, with this, I broadly come to a closure of my discourse.
Can we
Look at any questions are there?
So I request you to stop sharing, sir. Meanwhile, you can take the session is open for Q&A. So I would also request that you can switch on your camera, sir. That's fine.
Yeah.
We are open for Q&A. You can use the chat box or you can ask sir directly. Sir, I have one question while they will be coming more. I will utilize this time. So you in your career, sir, you have moved across the various organizations and held the leadership positions also. In our organization also, we see, especially in the senior position, people moving from one plant to other. So broadly, the systems are industry is similar, but even sir, say that the plant to plant, the systems do vary a lot also, sir, in terms of, and do people face the execution challenges also over there? So as a leadership behavior, sir, if I ask, sir, what are the key leadership behavior do you think is most critical for such kind of execution discipline?
To my mind, personally, I would believe that attitude is the most important thing. The willingness to execute, to take people along with you, and to achieve the set goals, whatever is required, we need to. I am not saying by hook or by crook. Yes, following the proper procedures, principles. Yes, but an attitude to do the things and I would say not to bend. Not to bend does not signify rigidity. You can always achieve your goals by following appropriate procedures, by pointing out. I believe in case I look at SAIL, although I don't know whether this would be an appropriate thing to point out or not, but considering that I was as well with SAIL for 29 years, I firmly believe that the decision which was taken in early 90s with respect to the modernization of SAIL. Now, SAIL is in such a beautiful position with the 7-8 large integrated steel plants, alloy plants, and all the infrastructure, etc. I don't see even today why SAIL should go for a modernization for all the plants at one go simultaneously. Uh, it is for an organization like SAIL, it is too big an exposure. At that point of time, it was 1 lakh crores. 1 lakh crores in 90s is too huge amount. In case and particularly for an industry which is dependent upon the markets and the input side also as well as output side also quite vulnerable to the prices of end products as well as of the inputs. Now, going for a massive modernization, committing such huge sums at one go at all we can have project execution as a defined process where my capital outgo continues. It's a continuous process. Yes, I take up one plant for modernization. By the time it is completed, before that, taking lessons from there, I start the second modernization. I start the third modernization. So capital budget and capital execution is a continuous cycle. SAIL is placed in such a beautiful situation that you can actually make a process for projects. So normally we say that we can improve the process parameters or we can improve the process efficiency by projectization. I say that we can improve the project execution by making it a process.
I can assure you with my limited knowledge that this time when we are going for the next phase of modernization, we are going in a staggered way. We have a lot of learnings, primarily through the mistakes that we did in last time. And I can see that a lot of those learnings are being implemented in terms of the precaution as well as in terms of the new systems that are being done. But only time will tell. But in this phase of modernization, we are going in a staggered way, sir. Keeping in mind the cash flow, keeping in mind of all the liquidity requirements, as well as the other operational parameters also, so market being the primarily. Any questions from other seniors also, sir? This is a very good opportunity.
Good evening. Good evening. I am Sunil Singhal. Singhal sir, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, first of all, let me thank that it was a very good presentation and regarding this compliance and all the issues. But sir, I observed that we are having systems in place, like all guidelines and or statutes are there, are well defined. And basically, its main issue is of compliance, how we adhere to them. Basically, what kind of monitoring mechanism we are having, that needs to be more sanctioned. Do you think, agree with me? The monitoring mechanism about governance.
Based on my experience of multiple organizations, I can say that yes, when I was a part of SAIL, I thought
I'm not commenting on SAIL only, sir. It's of PSUs.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. What I want to share is when I was a part of the SAIL, probably my understanding was that there are a lot of things that can be improved. And of course, any kind of situation, any kind of company, any organization, there will scope for improvement is definitely there. But moving to other companies, I can assure you that sales systems of governance and sales systems and procedures are one of the best. The only thing probably what we are lacking in Steel Authority is that the employees need to be motivated. The empowerment is there, but actually how many of us are actually utilizing those powers? So there is a many a times the employees are looking at excuses why the things cannot be done. If you reverse the question why this cannot be done, probably many of the answers are already available. SAIL is having most beautiful processes, systems, discipline. Only a willingness on the part of each and every executive that yes, whatever is the target, this has to be done, this can be done. So more than the resources, it is the resourcefulness which is important. So each and everyone has to be, and every employee of SAIL is an empowered employee. You have lots of power. If you decide to do something, there is nothing which stops you. Nothing.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions? If are there? Sir, I think there are no questions, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the very insightful and I must say very experienced session, sir. In today's session, I will just give a short summary to have the closing of this beautiful session, sir. You started with the three pillars of the corporate governance: law, ethics, regulations, and the
Profits.
profit being. You mentioned that while laws and regulations define the formal framework, but organizations operate and strong institutions are ultimately shaped by the professional standards and also the ethical judgment that are exercised by the leadership. And as a leader, we must constantly balance all the three elements and primarily ensuring that the commercial decisions are being made and taken. You took a very good, sir, case studies you mentioned in the red flags, in governance red flags, where you discussed the various mechanisms about the independent audit committee, whistleblower protection system, and also the cases of the board oversight. We have taken the different important scenarios about like including the whistleblower allegations in the procurement and the proposal to write off the long outstanding receivables. Through this session, sir, you gave us and in fact reinforced the importance of structured investigation process, also the board governance and its scrutiny, and also ensuring that the financial decisions should not and do not mask the operational issues. Very important point, sir, that you highlighted was that the corporate governance decisions rarely have a single perfect answers. So many times the leadership require careful judgment as well as in terms of balancing the regulatory requirements, the ethical consideration, the commercial viability, and you gave a very important, sir, board decision matrix. After all the inputs in terms, as I mentioned in the start of the session also, the topic can be dry, but you covered it so beautifully. And at the end, sir, you gave it so practical tool for us in terms of the board decision matrix, the 2x2 matrix. How do we actually implement it at our level and at the individual level also, sir? Thank you, sir. Thank you from the core of the heart for your time. And thank you for your time to all the participants.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
In fact, it has been a pleasure to interact with my own organization after such a long time. Although through this online, I am not able to actually visualize or see the participants who all are there. But definitely, it gives a lot of satisfaction to interact with my own people. Thank you very much for providing me this.
I would request if before we bid adieu, the participants who are there, kindly switch on their cameras if you can. If you can switch on, I request all the participants before we bid adieu.
Singhal sir, we saw you in a physical mode. You were in action at MTI in physical mode.
In fact, for me also, attending online meetings is a different experience. But this kind of a one-sided lecture or discourse, this is a different exposure altogether.
As Sir Atanu sir also given said, this is only a starter. The main course which will be is into the physical sessions only. So we try to give the flavor to our
Sir,
participants.
आप available, आपका availability issue है. हम लोग तो we are ready to invite you, sir.
We'll discuss.
Singhal sir, good evening. Pankaj Priya here.
Hello, Pankaj. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. And आप कैसे हैं, sir? Where are you putting up?
Where are you now?
I'm in sales safety organization. Ranchi में ही आ गया हूँ, sir. MDI के बगल में ही.
Great.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We can see, sir, more Basant sir also connected from Rourkela and other colleagues also, sir. But sir, for today, sir, we'll say thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you especially for agreeing for this session, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure. My
Thank you for giving such practical insights to such a topic, which is very important, especially for our organization also, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all the participants for joining this meeting. I will now only close it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.